We found out spending all the money that you want to spend.
All right, Greenville City Council will come to order.
Running late.
Call the roll.
Neely. Present. Godwin.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Schmidt. Whitaker. Brown.
Here. All right, if we get everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Greenville City Council. Council members, you've been mailed the minutes. They will stand approved as read unless otherwise. Okay, you were also emailed the financial report. I will take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brown to approve. Call the roll.
Neely. Yes, sorry. Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Approval of the agenda. There is one correction on that. The number 1 needs to be stricken from the list. I will take a motion to approve the agenda as amendment.
Make other reports.
Make a motion to.
Hang on just a second. And then also a couple of requests. There is a report from the utility committee and a report from the personnel committee that needs to be read.
They need a motion to accept the committee as amended.
Okay, moved by Mr. Godwin. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Neely. Yes. Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the public hearing part. If anyone would like to come up and speak, please come to the podium. State your name and address.
Name is Gunter Kerlick, 694 North Ohio Street. For the last couple of council meetings, you've been discussing Rumpke. And let me tell you my interaction with Rumpke for the last several weeks, or months, I should say. Approximately 2 months ago, Rumpke did not pick up mine or my neighbor's trash on their normal route. I phoned Rumpke's 800 number the next day, and they advised they got 48 to 60 hours to pick it up. I contacted Ryan City Service Director to ask if we have a contract with Rumpke and what is the state, what are the requirements. He advised if you contact Rumpke before 3 p.m. of the date of missed pickup, they ought to pick up the trash the same day. If you call after 3 p.m. or the next day, they have the rest of that day to pick it up. Ryan then phoned their local Rumpke representative, left him a message regarding the non-pickup, and also get help picking it up. Wednesday, I phoned Rumpke again, the 800 number, which I believe is Cincinnati, and advised them of our contract specifications, and they advised they would contact the route supervisor for it to be picked up. Thursday, again phoned Rumpke and advised that it had not been picked up. I again phoned Friday. I was transferred to a supervisor. She assured me it would be picked up that day and I would receive a credit, which I did, of $4.68. But the trash was not picked up. I was advised several times when I phoned that they've been trying to contact the local Greenville office and haven't been able to get a response. Mine and neighbor's trash was finally picked up the following week on a normal route. Last week, again, mine and neighbor's trash wasn't picked up. I again phoned the 800 number and was advised that they contact the local office up here in Greenville. Wednesday, again, I phoned, was advised they had 48 to 60 hours to pick up the trash. I advised them of a Greenville contract and was placed on hold. And when they came back on the line, she advised they had the rest of the day to pick up the trash. Thursday, I phoned and was advised they would pick it up. On Friday, was transferred to supervisor, who placed me on hold to allow her to contact the local office. When she came back online, she advised that she left messages for two of the local road supervisors, and she would call me back if she heard anything. I've never received a phone call. Trash was finally picked up today, again, 1 week later, our normal route pickup day. I believe this is a breach of contract, for which the contract could be canceled, but I also believe we have no recourse since we probably do not have any penalties in the contract for non-performance, or do we have a company waiting to take over this? Well, I also believe there's non-performance for not picking up the trash. The sole reason for the contract we have with them should diminish their professionalism and their personal standing in the community for any future contracts. Previously, City Council mentioned adding additional requirements to future contracts with Rumpke. What makes you believe that they will honor those requirements if they can't meet the basic one in your current contract? You also mentioned wanting to clean up the city, especially the alleys. By the city taking over the trash pickup, you will be in control for the programs and the timing for the accomplishment rather than having to rely on another company for the timing and restrictions. Be glad to answer any questions.
Do you put out bags or the toter?
I had a full tote each week for the data picked up, and they wasn't picked up.
So you have a brown, you and your
A
neighbor.
large tote, a large brown tote.
Large brown toters?
Yep.
Your neighbor too?
Yep, both my neighbors, neither one was picked up. We left it out the night before, left it out all week, finally put it away Saturday for the weekend, didn't want it out there on the weekend.
And that's on North Ohio Street?
Yes,
Well, it's funny, Gunter, because this week I failed to roll mine out from the back of the garage to the alley, which is about a car space, maybe 10 feet. And mine didn't get picked up. So I live on a corner and my neighbor has theirs picked up on Ash Street. I live on 3rd in the alley. So I rolled mine out. I realized that I missed mine. I rolled it out on Ash Street next to my neighbors. They picked up my neighbors, but didn't pick up mine. So my wife today spent about 45 minutes on the phone, and guess what? It's still not picked up. Yesterday, she spent 45 minutes on the phone. Today, it's still not picked up.
you get all kind of problems, no results.
Yep. And I've had the same problem with some of my commercial accounts, the service. So I understand and we apologize for not getting that good service that we should be giving you. So,
Well, it's not the city, it's Rumpke. You know, basically, you guys are in a contract with Rumpke, and if there's no penalties, they're gonna do what they want to do because you have no other recourse.
Yep.
And I would think that, you know, between now and you said October is the final date, of getting trucks, whatever you need to do, I would recommend you start doing something so you're in control and you're controlling your own destiny and cleaning up the city as you talked about.
any other questions for Gunter?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Anyone else would like to come up and speak? I think we should make the police chief stand for a while and speak.
It's been brought to my attention, there was some concerns about the readiness of our department. The hotbed topic now is active shooters. I want to assure that we have policies. I have copies of the policy. We do have policies that we do review every year. It's been reviewed. Those who want a copy, I brought plenty. Also, we have trained in the last several years. Stark County Sheriff's Office has hosted a couple trainings. We've trained at several different schools. We've trained at Sydney, or the high school. We've trained at the K through 8. I believe we also went to Tri-Village one year. And several years ago, we might have did some training as it pertains to school buses. So I get a lot of questions on this. Recently, we've agreed to assist individual businesses if they want to have an assessment, at least have our officers go through the buildings. Last week, we went through Whirlpool. Many of my officers have never been through the Whirlpool Corporation. So if you're not familiar with it, it goes good with familiarity. So that's one of the things we are training. So we're did we have enough for the vote? Hopefully on what we're going on later on today, but that is the big issue right now. That's what I was asked to speak about. For those after the meeting, if you want a copy of our policy, we do train it. We are trying to, I have 2 firearms instructors that we're going to do some training within the city building. We try to reenact things as best as possible. State law requires us to shoot paper targets in a stationary mode. That's what we try to do, is try to advance our training a little bit to make it better. Like I said, I have to hats off the sheriff's office. They have helped us in the past and hosted some good training. When it comes to the active shooter, like for schools, which is the most devastating thing, but we've actually trained with fire, rescue, and we train with, like, for sales police, Arcata police, Union City. It's like all the villages, because if something would happen, it's all hands on deck and everybody is coming. Entertain any questions on that? I guess I should introduce myself. I'm not in uniform. Eric Roberts, Chief of Police. Temporarily sidelined.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Chief. We just had some conversations within the community, and something that we thought that just needed to be brought before the public, just to ease their minds, to make sure that GPD is doing the training, the fire department for any of the big major disasters, and unfortunately the school shooting.
One of the things I'd like to try to do when I get back and going is I went to one nursing home and they had what's called a tabletop exercise. And they have their main people and they discuss, what are you going to do if this person walks in this door? And obviously with nursing homes, it's very unique because there's delayed doors, which up to 15 seconds. So we talked about bypasses and so forth. And what I asked the person that facilitated this training is, can they get every nursing home within the city limits? If we all sit down together, if we all have a similar plan, and if there's some uniformity there, that my officers will know, and we can also spread it to the other agencies that are coming. That way we have 6 different nursing homes and 6 different ways they're doing things. But if we have, it's
Right.
Basic. And I guess the key thing is they do something, and they do have some type of preparedness for it. Unfortunately, I never thought in my career that I would be training in schools for active shooters. And so we had some very realistic training. It's to the point where the squad is going in with us now. The days of waiting for a special team to come is over. And as you see, if those who are interested in a copy of that, if our school resource officer is by himself, he's going there by himself to neutralize that target. We're not waiting. So I know there's a lot of discussion about what happened in Texas.
Right.
I purposely have avoided that story. I just hope what I hear isn't true.
Correct.
And have we done any training for the city building for the employees?
We're going to.
Okay.
We're gonna do it without the employees here, but then it's something we need to look at because we have a unique population and we have our characters, and there's always a potential. There's towns our size getting hit. My firearms instructors currently are planning a training exercise to go in the city building. I didn't realize a lot of my employees didn't know this back here existed or any of this. So I want to make sure that they're aware, because it's very likely they could be called here. I've been called here before. I just go by myself on certain situations, but heaven forbid we have a situation I want us to train for that. It's a matter of just getting the people together and getting it done, and we're planning on it now.
We did send a lot of our, what we call our front desk workers, the people that are interacting with the public more on a daily basis in the utilities office, the tax office, the mayor and I secretary. We sent them to a training. It wasn't, our specific building, but things to do and how to kind of diffuse the situation here about 6 months ago.
Okay.
I know we're going to, I know the YMCA has reached out. I have an officer, currently one of my firearms instructors is on injury duty. So he's able to walk around and help them look at the exits and so forth, and listen to what they do. I mean, the main thing is we plan on something. What the worst thing to do is do nothing.
Well, we appreciate you coming up and enlightening us on a subject that shouldn't have to be enlightened on.
We continue our training. Like I said, the state requirements is very minimal, but we're gonna make our department wide a lot better. It's our goal.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Get feeling better. Anyone else? Public hearing. Move on to administration reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Council President. Like I told you, the last meeting, I kind of brought up the treaty day and told you a little background of it, but just a little reminder that tomorrow is treaty day, signing of the Treaty of the Northwest Territory. So it's kind of a big deal over the years. Maybe it's kind of faded away, but that's why we're here. So wish everybody happy Treaty Day. Anyway, next thing, things coming up or things past. It's we had a great big weekend this last weekend. I haven't talked to Greg Billings or anything about what has happened as far as how successful sidewalk sales have been, or whirlpool or KitchenAid sales, or we had the Annie Oakley Parade, the festival, the Gathering of Gars. It's like, I'm sure there's a lot of people they had a lot of people set up tents in the encampment and that kind of thing. So reenactment, that was pretty cool. I didn't make it. My sister, my niece, my son, they were all giving me reports. It was really nice. So, and then how many people were there? Some people think it's kind of thin, but then all the people that sold food ran out of food is what I've been hearing. So it's like, must have been a lot of people there. So sounds like pretty successful. I think they're coming up this Sunday will be the Tour of the Dark. It's county parks have a bicycle event. It starts at the Bish Discovery Center down on High Street. There's a 20, 50, and 100K bicycle tour. So anybody's interested, contact them. It starts at 7 in the morning, I believe. The Jordan Agency is sponsoring the Artisan Roll for First Fridays. It's pretty cool. A lot of crafts, a lot of handmade stuff, local artists. I think I even saw something about a wood carver or something gonna be there. So that'd be kind of cool stuff. That's 6 to 9 on Friday. And let's see, a couple firefighters were added to city roles yesterday. That was Grant Keller and Ethan Cole. Wish them the best. Anybody sees some new faces in the police department or fire department, stop and introduce yourselves to them. So it's nice that we got a couple more people in our fire department. So that's pretty cool. One other thing, Dark County Fair starts on the 19th. So then school starts, summer's over. It's fun to say that.
No, never fun to say.
Thought I'd pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Safety Service Director, Ryan Delk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize in advance. I'm gonna be a little bit long-winded tonight. First of all, I would like to request a joint meeting with the Greenville CIC, our annual meeting that we have to have. And I'd like to request that to be at 7 p.m. on September the 6th here in council chambers before city council.
Okay.
The second thing, I'd like to commend the police department. So if you're not aware, on last Friday, they conducted an operation and rounded or had 20 indictments for drug sales. This has been an undercover investigation that they've worked for months to set up. And then Friday, the mayor and I actually were invited to their briefing, and they're very professional. They take their jobs very seriously. they were well planned out on how to go after all of these individuals. They executed 2 search warrants where they took a number of drugs off the streets. Arrested at last count 15, Chief, and 7 have been OR'd. More than that, and counterfeit money. Yeah. So now the process starts of putting all that data together and going to court and working through that. But, you know, it's something that we don't get to talk about because it is an undercover investigation, but we get calls, you know, what are you guys doing about the drugs? Well, believe me when I tell you, they are tirelessly working on them, and just there's a lot of time and money and resources that go into those sort of operations. And with a small hiccup, everything went according to plan. So a big thank you to Detective Monin and everyone over there at the police department and Chief for setting it all up. Next, trash. We can talk about trash if you guys would like. I know we kind of talked last time about maybe doing some homework and bringing in some ideas. Some of the things that I've kind of worked on here over the last week. So a few issues that we've been having with Rumpke that I've been working with them on are the animal pickups, like a hit animal pickup. So they've kind of set up another way for us to call that in to hopefully speed up that process, is a customer service thing that they're working on for me. So some numbers here that I found interesting. So in the city of Greenville, Rumpke has 2,634 95-gallon toters, 536 65-gallon toters, 240 35-gallon toters, with a total of 3,410 on the toter sides. And then they have 2,698 that they call no cart employees. So their assumption is these people use bags.
How many was that? 2,600?
2,698.
Is that a week?
Yes. That's a week.
Well, that's like
No,
total
that's the
residents. So
Wow.
Yeah.
total household. The 20,
Households, residents.
the 2,600 and the 3,400 is the amount of properties in Greenville that Rumpke is supposed to be picking up if they have bags or a
Correct.
toter.
Correct. Yeah. So the total is 6,108. So they look at it, they have 6,108 total residents. So this is the interesting part. So we took an average of the bags that Rumpke sold over the last 2.5 years. So they only sell an average of 2,592 bags a month. So that means those 2,698 are either using one bag or no bags per month. Rumpke believes that probably a lot are using a couple bags a month, and then the remainder of them are probably illegally dumping or putting, you know, in a different container, or using a neighbor's or something like that. A couple other things we kind of talked about, you know, if we do go the contract way, was toters for events, and we can give them event dates. They can supply us with toters like for downtown or any events we have. Most of them are going to be downtown, and then they can service those on the following Monday. How they do it in other cities, like it's how the toters are housed at their like street department, and they go set out 20 and then say, hey, we have an event this day. So then on Monday they come through and service it, and the street department can go pick them up and take them back and store them. Something that would help us with event cleanup. And then their recommendation, if we did want to add recycling toters, would be the 65-gallon recycling toters, and then some 35s for like the elderly or people who just don't use that much. The red bins are 18 gallons, just for reference purposes. They wanted to do recycling pickup every other week, and I said, we're probably not interested in that. And then I was just asking them about a 1-year contract. They're fine with 1-year contracts with extensions or with one extension. They said they had no issues with that. So that's what the information that I have. Willing to answer any questions.
So on the recycling totes, there's a 65 gallon and a 35 gallon.
I mean, they can get them in 95, 65 or 35s, but they don't like to have just a bunch of different ones. They said like for a normal household, you would probably want to push the 65s. So that would be their main bulk of them. And then you could do the 35s as well. Another option is you could, have people send in what they want ahead of time. So you could get a count, so they could order them. He said it's not really usually super clean because somebody misses it and then it comes around that you're using toters and it's not in there. That's just if you wanted to go their toter route for the recyclables as well.
Would they still do the bins that way, or if they were doing toters, or is it just a toter?
I would write the contract however. They'd be willing to do whatever. They don't like multiple things, but
Right.
he said, we'll write the contract any way you want it.
They didn't handle the cost, did they?
Well,
Yeah, that's bid.
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
so what we need as council, we need to give Ryan direction of how we want to write this bid. So we can go to Rumpke or put it out on bid and get the bids back, and then we can decide, do we want to do this ourselves, or do we want to?
We won't have the bid back before October though, right?
I'd probably not.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna hold it until it's too late for us to make a decision. I mean, why wouldn't you? In my opinion, I mean, it would be good business on their part to do that.
Well, we would request the bid be back by a certain time.
Well, but by law, like, so we'd have to have the bid ready for next council meeting to approve. And then we would have to send it out for bids. We have to advertise in the paper for 5 weeks. Right. And then have a bid opening. I mean,
So realistically, when could we get a bid back?
At the earliest, if everything went as planned, let's see if we did August, we could get a bid late September. We'd be really close.
October 1, yeah.
Right.
We'd be really close.
So then we would have to make the decision whether to accept the bid or do it ourselves.
Correct.
And then that would only give us, what, 4 months?
Because when's the contract actually up?
March, ain't it?
April, I thought it was April 30th.
It was either 4/1 or 4/30.
April 1st.
Yeah, April 30th.
So 4 or 5. That would be a possibility. They'd give us 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is their reasoning for not picking up some of these, like the gentleman we had here a while ago?
You name it, they blame it on the customer service department, like ticket. So when you call customer service at Rumpke and you give them your information, the customer service writer puts it in a system, and then within minutes, it automatically then sends a printout to the Greenville transfer station, and then it hits 2 people's desk. Well, they're understaffed, and so they get that, and then they put that ticket on the driver's clipboard, and then they say they get like multiple ones, and usually what happens is as the driver's going through it, they say they miss it, and then that ticket gets lost is, I guess, the excuse. But so human error.
Well, for every complaint we get, maybe we dock them some.
So there's language in the contract, that you can get rebates if they miss it, but at the end of the day, people don't want it missed. They're paying for a service,
And I had that happen. They did, give me a week's refund.
Refund.
You want to call it, or took it off the bill for that month.
Right.
But I'm sure they're having the same problem everybody else is. Turnovers or employees that don't show up, and then somebody else has to fill in on the route, and then then you got a new person there that's doing it, that's missing somebody.
Right.
The gentleman that was here last time, and was sitting back there from Rumpke, I asked him specifically about that. He said a lot of times what happens is if, the drivers know that route, they know which ones they pick up each week. If it's one that's intermittent, sometimes that's the reason they would miss it. Now, in his case, I don't think that was the case. I think he would have one every week and so forth. Mine is maybe once a month, maybe it's 5 weeks as far as my own.
Mhm.
So, I can understand that. However, my neighbor in the same alley, he has some every week. And my dumpster is probably sitting 50 yards from his.
Right.
So,
I guess my big concern with it is like, okay, people are gonna miss things. But when you call in and you have 24 hours, like that's when I think it should be a priority. Like people shouldn't have to call in 3 times and say, we have 48 hours. I mean, like he did say, he's like, well, every contract's different. And the person in Cincinnati answering the phone doesn't know all the contracts, but in Gunther's case, he came in and was like, okay, what's the contract read? Like, that's what I'm gonna tell them. And he still had the same issues.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I think we need to give Ryan some direction of how we want to get this bid out. What do we want in there? Do we want him to bid, 35-gallon toters? Do we want to keep the toters or keep the bins and go with the toters? Do we
need to put it up?
large item pickups? I mean, there's just a lot to this, the language we can put in there.
So another one is, so we've had a lot of complaints about large item pickups. And I have to refine it, but in our contract, you're allowed up to 3, I guess they call bulky items, next to your bin, and they're supposed to pick it up without you calling in. And I was like, so would they pick up a couch or a mattress? And he's like, yep, as long as it's wrapped, they're supposed to throw it in there. And a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Right.
So that's a training issue as well. And, I will say they've really been open eared. Like, I'm like, hey, if we're gonna go with you guys, we have to fix X, Y, and Z, but that doesn't make me feel better that they missed someone's trash again.
And not only once, how about twice?
I'm sure there's a lot I don't even hear about.
right.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. I think, we owe it to the citizens for the best customer service, the best cost control. I mean, if you think this year alone, we tried to have a 0% raise and they said, okay, well, you can have 0% this year, but you're going to get 7% next year. So, I mean, when do they stick it to us? When do they stick it to the city? From a customer service standpoint, I guarantee you we can beat them on that. Like, that's ridiculous. And I got faith in that and the street permit to accomplish that. From a cost control standpoint, again, like, they're a private business, they gotta make money. And if somebody wants a bonus somewhere, somebody wants paid more, whereas, yeah, we need to make a little bit of money on it to be able to cover costs of future trucks and whatnot, but we certainly don't need to be out for big profits, and we're certainly not trying to do that, I wouldn't think.
My concern is the fact that if we would go service, is how much are they gonna stick it to us to unload at their property?
We have an answer to that, right, to go to Miami County?
So we have a backup plan, obviously option 1 would be go to the Greenville transfer station. For example, Versailles takes their trash there. It's been set up for years and they actually get a reduced rate that's by contract. So that would be something we could work on a contract with them as well.
And
And I asked him if point blank, like, would you guys do a contract with us? And he said, yes.
because they take a lot of trash, correct? Like from a little bit of everywhere.
It's not just Greenville. I didn't realize how much they ran out of that transfer station. Like, they have trucks that drive to like an hour and a half to Logan County before they even start their route every day. And then it ends up coming back to Greenville and then gets trucked on to Hamilton.
Interesting.
And I know it wouldn't be as big of an operation as far as for the city to do it.
However, you know, if they're having trouble with the help situation, are we gonna have the same situation? As far as the city?
Right. I mean, I think everyone's having that issue right now, right? I mean,
And that's what I'm getting at is, you
Yeah.
know, is it really gonna be much better for us?
Yeah, but I think Mr. Myers being able to control 4 or 5 people, whatever we need, is better than the Rumpke route drivers coming in like our mail people from Urbana or Piqua to fill those routes. At least it'll be hopefully somebody local that knows the streets or knows the area compared to what I call a contracted out employee in that respect.
And one of, oh, yeah, Mike.
One of the things, to go back to what John precipitated the discussion with, one of the things that we can do as we bid is to bid it as add-on. So we've got our standard service is going to be X. If we add this, what's the additional cost to add a 65-gallon toter or 35-gallon toter? So there is some flexibility, President Baumgartner, in terms of bidding it as a much broader package, and then we can pare it down if it makes sense to do it that way. I think that may save us some of the headache of having to know tonight specifically what we want, because we are on such a time crunch. I think it'd probably be best if council just authorized Ryan to set up and bid it as a package with alternatives so that we can have an array of what we may need.
Sort of a à la carte.
Correct.
Yep, I like that. That's why we pay you all the big money.
Yeah. Just one of the things about, you know, the city taking it over, we talked about eliminate the trash bags, and every resident here in the city of Greenville will get a cart or get a toter. So then, you know, like Leon said, that his mother or somebody that puts out their trash, and I mow up here in Berkshire, and you know, there's still trash bags that get put out there, but they're not out every Friday, you know, when I go up there and mow. And, you know, I would like to have a cheaper toter at my house too, but, you know, now you're gonna be forcing it on people that aren't paying for it now. You know, city taking it over is what we talked about. And, you know, that was the concern about citizens that were at that meeting that night too, is that, you know, it's going to force the toter on somebody and make them pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these numbers, 45% are using one bag a month.
Well,
So
It's the-
average. I mean,
So-
roughly believes they're illegally dumping.
well, that's
Right.
the point I'm
But
trying to
there's
get
no-
across. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Every commercial dumpster I have, a third of it is illegal dumping. From 3 of my businesses I own, a third of it is outside trash that's from outside people that doesn't belong to me.
And I've talked to residents that have said they have seen people walking their bags of trash to the park and dropping them in the dumpsters there.
Now, my mom has you know, with her neighbor, she works with him to, he does little things for her, and he takes her trash bag whenever. Or, you know, sometimes if she's got something, I'll take it and put it in mine. So, you know, but, you know, to force everybody to have a toter that has a water meter, I totally disagree with that.
And, you know, to your point, you know, you're right. And I'm not trying to put anyone out here by this proposal. And that was part of the reason of the homestead. But at the end of the day, all of you that are paying for Rumpke are paying for all those other people to have trash in the city of Greenville.
That the truck drives by their house, whether they have a bag or not. And that's the most expense cost, is to
Absolutely.
get that truck. You know, you're paying for an employee, you're paying for truck, diesel, insurance. Picking up that bag of trash is probably 5% of the cost.
Correct.
The other 95% is everything else. So we're driving by that residence and they're not, you know, we're paying, people that have toters and have trash bags are paying for that.
Right, I
That
mean,
makes sense.
the more people that pay into it, the less expensive, you know, the costs are gonna be able to stay down longer.
Right.
So one of the advantages of the city taking it.
Although on the other hand is if they drive by 10 houses and pick up the 11th one, they get done much faster too.
True.
They're not spending as much time.
Yeah, but they get paid 8 hours a day. And when they're done, they get to go home. I mean, so The drivers love that.
That's why they're there at 6.
Right.
And so some of the numbers that I looked at too was from the census. Talking about like those that qualify for the homestead was about 23% of, let's see, yeah, 65 and over, 23.8% live by themselves. Total single person households was about 40%, about 2,400 people. And so while a lot, it's still a minority. And so again, the majority is paying for the minority to have everything. So not exactly great.
All right, so council's in agreement to let Ryan do a bid with Rumpke, or I shouldn't say Rumpke, put a bid out there. And basically for this, and this, the different options. When we get the bids back, we can kind of go from there, whether we want to accept that bid or we want to possibly do it ourselves.
Now I
Go ahead.
got a question for that. Now you put that out and it's got trash bags on it. Now I'd be curious to see, Best Way, Laidlaw, Rumpke, if toters for everybody in the city of Greenville, what their price would be.
But they don't want to bid it, right?
Eliminate
Well,
bags.
That
would be- that would be- Yeah, it's because of the bags. That's the reason nobody else bids it, because of the bags.
So you can
But you're gonna compare
Have that
apples
as-
to apples,
have that as an
instead of
option.
apples to oranges. You need to go with everybody having a toter. What would Rumpke charge for that, or Best Way, or Laidlaw, or any other company? That would give you your true cost, from a company, or our cost.
And so at that point, you're talking like the city basically collects on the water bill.
No, you're saying they still have the option to either
Yeah.
not sign up for it or sign up for it.
And so again, you still have people that are paying for people that aren't using it.
No, I'm saying everybody takes a toter. Everybody that has a water bill, like the city wants to do.
Right.
Rumpke, put that out to Rumpke and say, hey, we got how many houses here in town? How many meters? 5,000?
5,900, 6,000, somewhere in there.
Right around 6,000.
What would that cost be? If it was 6,000 toters, or 6,000 toters to every resident in the city of Greenville, what would the cost be with Rumpke? Versus eliminating the trash bags,
Well, and
taking all that out.
along with the recyclable toters, because what
Yeah.
size were we going with 48 for the recyclable?
65s.
Is what the city was going to do, 65 for the.
Yeah, we're gonna do 65 and 35s.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be feasible or good reason to ask?
Yeah, we can
You can have that as one of your options.
do it that way.
Another thing too is there, if one of the companies that would want to bid on it would want to do automated, the alleys, I don't think would utilize doing automotive or automation.
Correct.
You said they changed a lot of the trucks that it's.
So you could, you could get some more of automation with the new automated trucks. Definitely. I don't think we could ever get all of them just because of wires and different things, but there are areas you could, because believe me, after like touring a couple places that made everybody move them out of the alleys, like we don't want to go full out of the alleys automated. It was kind of a mess because people were not bringing their dumpsters in.
Be a pain to drag it all the way from the back, all the way to the front, snow, ice.
Right.
But one thing I don't think we want to do is have the city bill it and have to pay Rumpke, because we're taking all the liability there, right? So we have to pay Rumpke regardless whether
Whether we collect or not, correct.
So I think that's, after thinking what Clarence was asking, that I don't think would want to do that.
I don't want us to do that.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, just us as the city is gonna make everyone sign up for trash
That's what we talked about.
and then have Rumpke bill it?
No. Yeah.
Rumpke bill it to them.
Yeah.
How do you force them? How does that work?
You don't.
How does that work?
And do that.
So again,
I'm just saying, that's what we're planning on doing. We're planning on 6,000.
And we can force people to do it to the extent that we attach it and we bill it through the water department as a utility bill. We can't make people privately contract with a company if we're not gonna be the facilitator for the collection of everything.
Right.
That's correct.
And Ryan, on the Rumpke and the bags, wasn't it in 2023 they wanted to eliminate the bags? Or
That was the original talk. Now they've said they'll do the bags again.
okay, I thought that was part of a
for now,
issue was if they were, yeah, for now.
they'll do the back, like they want the contract again, like
Right.
they're gonna do anything to get the contract for another year. I personally, I don't think we need to, and I would say we move forward with our own stuff.
But it's
Like that's where I'm at.
$1.50. If somebody puts a trash bag out every week, it's $1.50 more for the 35-gallon toter. Is what and they would have the option of the 3 pickup.
Is that the
pickup item.
$19 cost, or is that with the homestead?
That's
You're saying
Rumpke's
right now,
current price. Yeah, your per bag cost
Okay.
weekly. Right.
Is $1.50 more with the toter?
But if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the reasons the thought process, we could never get more than one company to bid this was because of the bags. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
So I think the bags need to be an option.
We could, I mean, that's obviously at the end of the day, it's you guys' decision to accept the bid. You could bid it that way where an option of no bags and potentially get a couple more bidders. Where if you want trash service, you don't have to have it, but the only thing you can get is a toter and still build through Rumpke. You're still in my mind, because it's not like they're going to be like, well, I only have a bag of trash a month. Like they're not going to charge them their $4. They're going to charge them whatever their small toter is.
You're gonna wind up
And then
with
are you
more,
going to drive more people to you? Is
Right.
my concern with it.
more illegal dumping.
Or more sharing. And I mean, at the end of the day, like if they're bidding it, it's not on us, but we can bid it that way and see what happens. I mean, I'm concerned what might see as the bid.
My fear is no one's gonna bid for
Right.
the trash.
That could happen as
Trash
well.
bag.
I just,
All right, any other discussion with Ryan on this? So Ryan, just put plenty of options in there.
A lot of options. Got it.
And
I'll write that down.
we have faith in you.
Okay, we're good there. So the next one I have is sidewalks. And I've supplied all of you with a map. And I'm going to attempt to share my screen here.
You just picked 2 really hot topics, didn't you?
I did.
Trash and sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
Put the trash on the sidewalk.
Gosh, I wish I had a magnifying. Lord have mercy.
Maybe.
Read the street.
It is, yeah. It's like, where do I live?
There it is.
See there?
So here's kind of the map we put together to, as we talked about last meeting, of the areas that we wanted to try to address. So the purple is completed sidewalks. So out Wagner, out North Broadway, section there by the school, 4th and Schweitzer. The red sections, which is North Ohio and then out Schweitzer, are projects that we have in the works that we're working on getting grant funds that would address those sidewalk problems out there. And then the yellow section is what we would want to call phase 1. So there's a lot of different ways we could go at this. So I guess basically what I'm looking for is this something that council wants to support and wants to see happen? And then if so, we're going to put together a plan with all of our phases. So for example, like we put this map together, but until we go out and spend some money and evaluate these areas, we don't know what that cost is going to be. You know, it could be $1 million, you know, it's just, we don't think it will be, but it could, until we go out and put engineers' estimates to it, we won't know what that cost is. So the thought process is to potentially, so we have a little over $1.3 million. So the thought process is maybe split that up into thirds and kind of put like $440,000 per year, because once you do the assessments, you won't see that. So the project would be next year, and then you wouldn't assess that till August. And then once you do the assessments, if you do a 5-year one, till you start seeing that return, you know, and that way we could let that ARPA money go a little further, so everyone starts to see a benefit of it. You know, and I had sent, I think all of council, kind of how our last ordinance read. Some other cities, you know, we had talked about, do we do something with, you know, a low to moderate income area, or some kind of a payback, or take some money off, and put that in a criteria. A lot of them seem to be more geared towards if it was a residential property that was owner occupied, and then if they fell in this criteria as far as the wages, some paid 25% of the cost, some paid 50% of the cost. Another one we talked about adding is maybe, you know, if you lived on a corner lot, because you would have so much more frontage, maybe do some kind of a kickback on that one as well. And then the other option here is something that we had started the last time. Let me find it. I think it's this one. Yeah. So this is a company we added in, Precision Concrete Cuttings. This is a company that came in the last time in the original phase one, kind of went through the whole phase one and identified all the spots that they could take care of by cutting. So let me show you here what they're. So this is a before after. This is with the raise. I think they'll go up to 1.5 inches. I really wouldn't really want to go over much of an inch personally. And then they cut it out to make it ADA compliant at that point. Yeah, so another kind of module, I guess we could add to it, or my thought was, if we went out, we identified the spots we could do this to try to help all the residents out. Maybe the city could cover that portion. You know, on phase one, it was like 56,000 was the last part to address all of those spots, and it was 509 trip hazards. So, you know, you'd have to go out and evaluate every one and every crack, and if the sidewalk's in good enough shape to handle a cut, and go that route. So that's another one that we could add to it. And then after that, after this area gets fixed, you know, we would phase out. So the thought process is we would go heavy one year and then kind of a lighter area the next year. And when I say that, how we would phase it, maybe an area that doesn't need as much work one year. That way you're making those funds back on your assessments and not spending all of it, big entire chunks at the beginning years. So again, I'm willing to do kind of whatever direction council wants to go. You know, this was kind of the plan I put together on how to address it. And with doing all these mains, then, you know, the thought process was you could walk 4 or 5 blocks and always get to a good sidewalk. And then we would have to phase back in. And then something that the mayor and I had discussed today, I mean, we think after year 3 or 4, we're probably going to have to start reevaluating these areas, because they're going to be ones that weren't there before that are there now. You know, it's a big undertaking because we've never had this in place in the city, or I guess never enforced it, where a lot of cities have the leg up on us, where they've been doing this for years and years and years. And then the residents know what the expectation is, and the sidewalks are in much better shape because of it, and so on and so forth.
So this phase one is basically all busy main intersections
Correct.
that have
Yes.
not been recently replaced. Is there curbs on this or just sidewalks?
Just sidewalks.
Ryan, is Wagner Avenue in worse shape, let's say, than Martin Street would be? Do you know that?
In spots, yes. In Wagner, out there, they're not as deteriorated as other areas, but they've moved a lot more probably than other areas as far as trip hazards. Another big issue on Wagner is drive approaches aren't ADA, like there's a curb that you would have to go up around. So to try to make that more ADA and walkable.
I would think we would want to, even though one's marked in yellow here, and I know we're not gonna be able to do all that at one time. But I would say maybe grade them like we do the streets and go with those parts first. As far as the worst parts.
Right.
So Ryan, you're estimating this to be that? Or you? Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking Martin Street's pretty new.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna have a lot on Martin,
Right.
because that was put in probably 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Probably closer.
Wagner, you're not gonna have a lot except to the, like you said, the approaches.
Right. I think our money will go far on this, but
yeah.
Concrete prices have basically doubled. Prices that when we started this in 2019, 2020 have skyrocketed. This cost here was from 2020. So that's something we're gonna have to update. My concern is, it's not gonna go as far as we thought it was based on our old numbers.
And then I also noticed, your answer, we didn't go that far out on Schweitzer. And that is because we've got future.
We have a future project we're working on planning out there. Yep.
Because I think that's the most noise I've heard is people complain about, the people that live in the couple of trailer parks that are handicapped, they have to ride on the street. I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
all the time.
but that's in the works, right?
Correct.
And that's a
project, but we're like 2 years into it, probably take another 3 at least.
right. Okay.
This bit is coming, we hope.
Okay.
Yeah. We're looking at like 2026, 2027.
So Ryan, you're asking, is council okay with this? Get their blessing to start to get the estimate?
Get the engineer's estimate together, which then helps us put the plan together and the final product. I don't want to, this is probably going to take $15,000-$20,000 worth of engineering, and I put $20,000 in engineering in something and then you don't support it. It's kind of silly.
So any thoughts on phase 2, 3, and 4?
So yes, phase 2, kind of looking at 3rd, 4th, and 5th area. Phase 3, we would probably move down to the south end a little bit. And that's kind of as far as we've taken it out.
Okay.
Our thought is just like what Leon says, once we get this going, it's going to take some time and something we can have our inspector do some in the winter, like evaluate the streets. So we go out and evaluate areas and then we set our plan based on how bad those are. But it's going to take us some time to get through the city. It's not just next month I have all the data and we're ready to go.
Can you make the print a little bigger?
Make sure you clarify, this is just repair.
Right.
This is not replacement of that, it's only
The ones that are bad.
it's done.
Yep.
Okay.
I think anyone that's walked around the city when we did that assessment the last time, and you've seen all the X's and the markings of what needed replaced, which was quite a bit. It was probably, I would say 20-25% of the sidewalks in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So council, what's your thoughts? Give Brian the okay to get to start the engineering on this?
I think we need this.
Yeah, we got to start someplace.
Yeah.
Right.
I do my sidewalks good when I jog.
All right, there you go, Ryan.
All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Delk. Law Director,
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Just a couple quick things. We've got another joint meeting with the township coming up August 10th as we continue to pursue the options for best utilizing the joint fire departments. So that is continuing to move forward. And then just briefly, there's two pieces of legislation we have before you tonight. One is the SRO contract with the school. That contract allows for a third school resource officer. The school does pay for that. We're required to provide them two. Our hope is to be able to give them three. That's what they like and what they're willing to pay for. And then that goes along with the other ordinance that we have tonight, which is our strength ordinance, which would increase then the number of police officers we have on staff currently to accommodate that as well. So those are those things. And with that, I'll take any questions if anybody has them.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. City Auditor.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I just need to advise council that our office deposited $700,000 into a money market account for healthcare at Greenville National Bank on July 21st. So in essence, we put new funds into that account. So I'm advising you of that fact. And with that, I will pass.
Okay, thank you. Committee reports. Before I do that, I do have a request for a committee, utility committee assignment, and that is for the studying of the 3 trailer courts we have in town to for the need of a master meter and backflow preventer. That good?
That's good. Thank you.
And then, so we also have a utility committee report for the water rates.
Greenville City Council, honorable members of council, the Utilities Committee hereby submits our report. The Utilities Committee met on May 6, 2022, and on June 26, 2022, in council chambers to discuss the water and sewer rates for the city. After discussion of the water and sewer rates, the committee decided to keep the city water rates as they are. We still have an increase of 20% in September of 2022 and an increase of 10% in March of 2023. The committee recommends that the water increase for bulk water change from 10 cents to or 0.010 to 0.0125 to offset improvements that are going to be needed at that location. Tap-in fees for 1.5 inches is $2,250 increase to $3,800 per tap-in. And for 2 inches, it's $2,700 increase to $4,000 to offset rising costs of equipment for tap-in fees. The prices have not changed since September 16, 2005. Respectfully submitted, Committee on Utilities, Clarence Godwin, Chairman, Chris Norris, Vice Chairman, and Brian Brown, Member.
All right, you've heard the committee report.
Move to accept the committee's report.
Moved by Mr. Rogers to accept the committee report. Any discussion? So on that, you said the rates haven't gone up in 2005. That is on the tap-in fees,
That's
right?
all the tap-in fees, sewer
Right.
fees, tap-in water, tap-in fees.
So you can imagine the cost of labor and material. in that. So,
That was one of the reasons that Gary brought it up about the 1.5 and 2 inch. And then we was talking about it that, the cost of it, it can go up tomorrow even more.
And built in just a little bit of a buffer. He had it down to the penny what we needed, and we felt like we should have just a little bit more than a penny to cover.
any other discussion?
And the bulk water rate, the reason of the increase on that was we've talked about the drive out there. If anybody's went through that water station they have out there in the potholes, you can put that desk in out there. That pretty bad. And Gary talked about concrete. And we was talking about the cost of that and what it was going to cost to concrete that whole thing. I don't even know if the 12.5 is even going to take care of doing that.
Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Healy,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes,
Do we have enough to accept that committee
Yeah.
report?
You can accept the committee report, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may, can we do a deadline on the
Yes.
utilities? Second meeting in September.
That's
Is that good?
I
That
read
shouldn't
mine.
take much.
Thank you.
I'll bring some cookies.
Okay, and then next we have a committee report from the Personnel Relations on Transit.
Dear Council, the Personnel and Public Relations Committee met 5 separate times since being assigned to the in-house transit issue. We discussed the budget and what it would look like moving the Greenville Transit Management in-house and terminating the contract with MV Transportation. We met with another city's public transit director via phone and learned why they made the switch. We were informed they not only valued switching in-house, but they saved money as well. The auditor and director of transit, along with others, met to determine financial feasibility for the city to take over. The Personnel and Public Relations Committee at this time recommends that the council approve legislation allowing the Greenville Transit to be run by the city of Greenville. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Brian Brown, Chairman, Dolores Ely, Vice Chairwoman, and Chris Norris, Member.
Move to accept the committee's report.
It's been moved by Mr. Rogers to accept the committee report. Any discussion? Mr. Brown, was that your first committee? Report?
Second one, I think.
Second one. Good job.
Yeah, it needs a little more work, but we'll get there.
Any discussion? Any questions on any of that? Okay, call the roll.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
You have to prepare legislation for that. Okay. That is it on the committee reports. Move on to ordinances and resolutions.
Currently, at this time, we don't have enough council members present to pass them. You would have the option of doing the first reading only on all of them, or if we're going to have to call a special meeting and you anticipate having to waive the second and the third reading anyway, you can just move forward in the agenda. Given that it's part of it is a decision about whether or not you think that you're going to be able to get the 6th member here for the next meeting. As we're worried about that, reading it, eventually you'll get to a point where you could pass it. But as of right now, you can't waive the second and third readings tonight.
Right. So I see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have emergency clauses. Do we need to hold a special meeting to come back?
Yes.
So with that, if you're going to hold a special meeting anyway, odds are you're going to pick a time that you're going to have at least 6 members. You could probably save some time tonight, although I'm sure
Okay.
Jessica would love to read all of this.
All right. That makes sense. So I will get with the council members. I'll send a text or something and have set up a special meeting.
What about next Tuesday?
I'll be out of town. So it's gonna have to probably be this weekend. And you need, how many days notice?
Just 24 hours.
24 hours. I'll get with you in the morning. Okay. Might be a Friday night meeting.
I can't do it for you.
I won't be here Friday night either.
Saturday.
I'll get with everyone. We'll figure it out.
7 a.m.
All right, then we'll just skip right down to no new business, no old business, correct? Outside committee, community action.
That would be me. I just want to report that due to some of my other interests, I have been going out to CAP as a volunteer, like every Friday. I've been working in their clothing bank, and I have to say that I'm impressed by all the things that they do, but their clothing bank is quite interesting. They're open from like 10 to 1, and I volunteer there, like I said, every Friday. And I'm amazed at the number of people from our community who come in. If people are in need of clothing, they're in need of some household items, you need to check that out. People in the community need to check that out because they have I'll just say this, they have a $1 bag, they have a $3 bag, and they have a $5 bag of clothing. And as much clothing as you can stuff in there, you pay the price and you walk out the door with it. Their household items, they have all kinds of dishes, and they have furniture as well. I think the most I've heard somebody offer for is $10, and that was for a complete bedroom, a bed, a chest and all. So I mean, you can't beat the price and it's there for the community. And so I encourage people in the community to make use of that. And also is that I'd encourage you to donate. If you're going through your closets and going through your household things, that's a good thing to do. But they also have several other things that they offer to the community. And I'm just going to say, do a little keyboard tapping and go out and look at their website, because there's lots of services that people in our community could make use of. With that, I pass.
Thank you. Communications.
We received the CIC meeting minutes from May 25th, 2022, and we received the monthly reports of July from the Income Tax Department, Fire Department, and Police Department.
Call of council.
Ely,
I pass. I have nothing else to say.
Godwin,
I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and that'll pass.
Morris,
You know, we appreciate having the public's input, and Chief Roberts, thank you for your input with us this evening, and with that, I'll pass.
Rogers,
Yes, a couple of things is, last weekend, we've had our class reunion. It was 55 years. But anyway, I noticed the fountain lights were green, and I think that was one of the requests, and that was very much appreciated, so thanks on that. And we had some out-of-towners that took into the festivities, the gathering at the Garst, and also probably out at the fairgrounds. And we had to eat at the Maid-Rite, of course, and then we was at Friday night at Montage, so we helped out a few of the businesses here in town. Also, I've been receiving a lot of complaints about noise from vehicles. Now, you know, I know it's hard for the police department because what I think may be loud, it may not be loud to them. The only way to, you know, determine that is by a decibel meter. I think we need to maybe check into the price on a couple of decibel meters and, you know, get that ball rolling that we can maybe cut down some of the noise in the city. So I know, you know, I've had several complaints. Some of them wanted to not come forward to council, and, you know, so I'm kind of their liaison for that. And also, you know, I think that it was good to see, you know, people up here tonight, and, you know, hopefully we can get the trash complaints and so forth taken care of. With that, I pass.
Brown,
Mr. Council President, I also have a report from the outside committee from the Visitors Bureau, County Visitors Bureau. I don't know what happens. I seem to have fallen on like the off month of that. And so I always have like super old information. So I just wanted to share with that briefly about the meeting. One of the things that was announced was that they'd entered into a partnership with Versailles to send our director over there for 3 days out of the month. So that was interesting to me. They are compensating for that as well. So it's going to be on a sliding scale with the bed tax and what they are able to get from the bed tax from over in Versailles. So that may be of interest for the city to look at some point. The KitchenAid pop-up shop last weekend. Do we know what they were donating that to? Had they said? Okay. Last year's they donated it to the basketball court, and so I look forward to seeing what they come up with for this next year. That would be cool. And then the one thing that someone pointed out, I believe it was Director of Chamber of Commerce, Peggy. All right. She pointed out, so the solar eclipse is next year, April 8th of 20, or not next year, in 2 years, April 8th of 2024. Apparently that's a really, really big deal. I had no idea how big of a deal it is, but apparently people come from everywhere. And so it was just something to put on the calendar that if we wanted to do something as the city, like to, she said, people are planning it now. And so
they're already reserving seats at Eldora for people to come and sit and watch.
yeah, which is slightly crazy to me, but nonetheless, that's about all I had from there. I just want to say thanks to the auditor and her department, as well as Aaron, for getting together and getting that thing, helping us get that accomplished. Chief, thanks for your input on the active shooter, and with that, I'll pass.
President Baumgartner.
A few things. So congrats on the new firefighters. Russ, make sure you pass that along. I'll try to stop in and introduce myself and meet him. And Eric, kudos on the police department for making that drug bust. I mean, I think 95% of the crime in Greenville is drug related, if not higher. So keep doing the great work. And Ryan's always talking about how well police departments ran and the new detective, et cetera, on the drugs. So thank you for that. It was funny. I ran into some folks I went to school with over the weekend that was here in town visiting for Annie Oakley Days, and they were talking about all the stuff going on in the city, from the downtown properties being fixed up to how well the park looks and just on and on. And I think sometimes we get caught talking about all the negative stuff and we don't look at all the great stuff going on. So talking about, community action, all the stuff they do, my wife used to work there, and I was always amazed at how many, meals they delivered, or clothing store, or help with HEAP and et cetera, to those folks that need it. So there's a lot of good things going on, and with that, I pass. I'll take a motion to adjourn. All roll.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Everyone.